Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing poet authors of a new book that we have coming out called 100 Poems and Possibilities for Healing. You guys, how it took me this long to do a poetry collaboration, I will never know, but just wait until you hear these beautiful women talk about this today and then read the powerful poetry in this collection. We have men and women from all over the globe contributing to this collection. It's going to drop in, I don't know, 4 more days on the 9th of January. So I know, I'm like, eek, excited about this. Um, Poetry has been in my world for a really long time. And so the excitement is just off the chain for me. Welcome, ladies. What's up? Now you're all
Hey,
muted, right? So I can't hear you.
Hi,
There we go.
Laura.
hey, good morning,
Good
welcome.
morning.
Good morning. Oh my goodness. Okay, so who do I have in my Zoom room today? For the last 15 years, Christine Falcon Daigle has supported adults engaged in transformational healing retreats through her work with the Hoffman Institute. She is a women's circle facilitator, certified yoga instructor, and in 2024 will be launching her own one-on-one transformational coaching practice. Christine, thank you for being here. Dawn Essence Horizons is the owner of Dawn Horizons Spiritual Spa and Healing Center, and she is making healthy disciples from the inside out. Dawn, thank you so much for being here today. Silfath Sophia Pinto, expert in somatic therapy and energy healing, helps individuals create a life that feels aligned, purposeful, and ecstatic through private mentoring, sacred initiations, and retreats. Silfath, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here today. Stacy Belinsky is the CEO of the Serendipity Spot, where they support makers and their creative endeavors. Stacy, welcome. I'm so happy you're here today. Okay, party is starting with Dawn. Dawn, give us the why behind your poetry.
Wow. I say healing in the pen in 4 short words, right? Writing is healing for me. It's just how my brain works. So whether it's lists or bullet points or crayons and coloring, writing is how I exhale. Poetry is my exhale. I really, really love poetry, and I started from a very young age.
Poetry is my exhale. Girl, that's one way to start this interview off. Like, okay, for me, that's in my body, and that's part of poetry for me. Tell me more about that.
It's the way that I process. If I have something traumatic going on, if I just need to make a decision, writing is one of the ways that I get out of my head. I am able to dump the things that are weighing me down, that I'm thinking about or overthinking about. It's one of the ways that I dump whatever it is that's on my heart, good, bad, or indifferent. So it helps me to exhale. It helps me to breathe. It helps me to get back into alignment and get back grounded with who I truly am in my identity by processing it out through writing.
So, what's the difference between that therapeutic kind of journaling that you're talking about and a poem that you actually decide to speak at the microphone or publish? How does that go down for you?
That's a great question because sometimes they're one and the same. Sometimes my therapy is there on the stage when I'm sharing or on a podcast like this and I'm sharing a piece of poetry because it's a piece of me and it's a piece of something that maybe that I've gone through. I'm sharing something someone else went through for the hopes of helping this other person to go through it and say, well, maybe if they've been in the same situation, this is one way to help process through it and to let people know they're not alone. We're all going through something at one time or another. So it's part of my healing process, and I share that with others. Being on the stage feels good. It's scary sometimes, but it feels good. And even when I feel like, oh, this is not good or this is not important, I'm still talking to someone, and it never fails. Someone will come up to me and say, wow, you were talking to me. And then I exhale again. And I feel so much better because me releasing help them to release. And that's what it's all about.
I love that you said that they could be one and the same, because many times my stuff is really very unedited or very little bit edited, and I'm sharing it raw like that on purpose. I want people to get over their perfectionism and just share and be brave about that. And that's, you model that all the time. I've watched Dawn on the stage many, many times over these several past years. And that is a gift, Dawn, that you're
Wow,
giving. So I thank you for that. You guys,
thank you.
more a little bit more from Dawn in a minute or two. Stacy, tell us the why behind your poetry.
Thanks. So it's kind of hard to follow that, but really it's similar as far as I've always been a writer. I think I was introduced, I was enamored really by Laura Ingalls Wilder and Little House on the Prairie. That was part of how I grew up. I was gifted the book series and I just started writing too. I have an old journal somewhere. Sometimes it comes out as a poem. More often it's stories, but sometimes it's a poem, and it just depends on the moment.
I was so inspired by those books as well. And of course, with the name Laura, like, how could, right? Like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Laura. Like, yes. And I love that you talked about the stories, because there are story poems, you guys. And I would love for people to just not put any rules around what poetry is. So tell me a little bit more about how those stories move out, Stacy, and how has that been for you in terms of your process?
um, Usually there's something that I'm trying to figure out. Sometimes I'm just writing because I want to just talk about what's the day, but every once in a while, especially when it comes out more in what's considered a poetry form. I mean, where it's the lines are just shorter kind of thing. Um, it's an emotion and it's an observation at the same time. So there is a story to it, but then it's like putting it together in or sometimes I just have a line that wants to repeat and I'm trying to figure out why, what does this even mean? So, and that's the form that it comes out in too.
So do you guys ever get to the place where, like, one of your posts, so Stacy's talking about the short lines versus long lines, and again, like, I love no rules, right? But I cracked myself up one day when a whole poem came out to the rhythm of A Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, da 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 da, right? And like this rhythm and this whatever. So Stacy, are you like a rhyming geek like me, or not so much?
I do rhyme and actually sometimes those lines because I was involved or I used to attend um songwriters group where they would and they always had stories too, like they would have the story and then when it come out in this form and I'm not a songwriter per se, like I don't play I don't play an instrument like they were doing too, but sometimes it would that's how it would I would think about it, it would flow. It's like I'm like I have stories like that, so I've actually written songs, co-written songs, but it started with my idea because I'd have that line that I was trying to puzzle out. It's like I have the story, this line that keeps coming up, and then the musicians would help me with the flow. But I've done that, maybe not Nightmare Before Christmas, but I've done that too, where it's I've had a song in my head and that's kind of the beat that it comes out to.
Yes. Stacy, thank you for being here. More from Stacy in just a moment, you guys, and you're all going to get to hear poetry today in just a few minutes. So stay tuned for that. Silfath, tell us the why behind your poetry.
This is thank you for this question because I really had to think about it. I was like, what? Okay, so it comes down for me to a couple of things when I was really breathing into this question. I think the first thing that came to me is capturing a moment. I feel a lot of time when I write poetry, it's when there is something that is really strong happening. It's a connection, it's an intimacy, it's a ripple effect. So I can be writing poetry because I'm watching the sunset. I can be writing poetry because I am, going through something really difficult, and in that difficulty I'm meeting myself at a depth that I hadn't met myself before. It can be writing poetry. I remember one time at the end of a retreat, I was so touched by the women, and at night I was processing the journey of all the women, and I wrote a poem to each one of the women, and I read them the poems the day after. So for me, poetry is intimacy and connection, is really capturing a moment. It's almost like, when we take pictures, but for me, when it's a really strong moment, I feel like I need to capture it with my words. So yeah, that's what I feel about poetry. And I always wrote poetry. I remember when I was in business school, in my yearbook, I wrote something about the sun caressing my skin and hearing the waves. And it was business school. It's like very, and people were like, "Are you the girl who wrote about the sun caressing your skin?" And I'll be like, "Yes, it was me." So yeah, that's my thing
That's
about
my
poetry.
kind of business, girl.
Exactly.
I love the nature connection. I would imagine we might all here raise our hand for that inspires poetry. I know it does for me, but I love how you talked about capturing the moment and processing with writing in general. Would you agree that you may not know it's going to be a poem, you just decide to put your pen to the paper? Tell me
Yeah.
more about that process.
Yeah. So usually what happens is a bit what like Stacy was saying before, is like there is a feeling coming, and then a word comes or a sentence comes, and I journal. I journal less now actually, but there was a period of my life where I was journaling every morning. And so there was a processing, and then all of a sudden it was moving into a poem, like out of nowhere. And that's how I started really writing poems. It was when I was doing some journaling. And exactly, I start with a thought, and then something just come through.
Would you say that those are channeled through you?
It's interesting that you say that, because when I was talking about connection and intimacy, I what I almost said, but I didn't want to say it because I was still like, here you go. But I feel like those moments where you're writing poetry, it's like the divine is moving through you. That's how I feel. That's what I almost said when you talked about the why, and I was like, okay, just don't, because sometimes I go in places, but yeah, that's how it feels. It feels like there's something that is moving through you, and that's why I talked about this deep connection and intimacy. It's very special.
Yes, thank you for answering that. Yeah, maybe I just ESP'd that earlier when we were starting. But you saw everyone nod their head, you guys. It's like I think that is a feeling, and I love for when all of you try to describe that feeling. I want people to feel that feeling. I want them to feel inspired to try, even just plain old journaling, even if you think you have nothing to write about that day. I want you to try, putting your pen to the paper. Oh my gosh. Okay,
I
Chris.
just want to
Yeah.
say something about it real quickly, just on what you just said. When I do my retreat, we do an exercise that I call beauty and poetry. So it's all about women allowing themselves to be seen, women tapping into their creativity. So one woman sits in the middle of the circle, and she becomes a muse, and the other women have to write a poem about her. Every time I introduce this exercise, you're like, I don't write poetry. I don't know how to write. Oh my God, I'm going to do it. It's like all the drama. Then we put some music. The woman poses. Also, she's freaking out. And then the other women start writing. And something happens. And everyone is writing. And then everyone goes like, they're like, wow. And it's just so beautiful to really tap into that. And as you said, everyone can really write poetry. That's what I truly believe. But it's finding your own style and trusting it.
What a beautiful exercise. I might have to try that one out. Oh my gosh. And
Yes.
how vulnerable and amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Okay,
You.
Christine, tell us about the why behind your poetry.
Well, first of all, I just want to say how honored I am to be here among you and how everything is just landing and hitting with me. And I am just so honored to be among you and grateful to be here, Laura. Thank you. Thank you for having the vision for this book. Let's see, my why. Honestly, I think there was nothing else to do for me at that point. The poems that came through me and the story in my chapter that's included in this book, it was really because there was nothing else to do at that moment for me. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I feel the pain behind that. Will you keep telling us a little more about that?
Sure. The pain behind that is about being at the start of the weirdest time in my entire life. 2020, for all of us, marks the beginning of our global pandemic. Here in California, where I live in Northern California, we also had the most devastating natural wildfires of my life. And there was really the poems that came through me during that time, they really chose me. I didn't have a choice. It was sort of like, you know, this entity that was throttling me from the inside that woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning if I could sleep, because there was a period of time where I wasn't really sleeping that well. We didn't know what this was about yet. There was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of trauma that was getting re-triggered for me from my very early childhood, from my divorce from my first husband, which had happened 10 years prior, from a very painful time in my life. And yeah, I didn't have a choice. What came through literally came through me, and I just got out of the way and I allowed it. I had been writing poetry long enough at that point to know that I just need to get out of the way and let it come.
That's the piece I was waiting for, because what I was gonna kind of just play with you a little bit on is you said it was the only thing left to do. Well, like, if you line up 100 people, they'd think of other things that they would do aside from sit down and let poetry move out of them, right? But so you said, I've been doing this a minute and I've learned, right? Tell me a little bit more about that piece of it for you.
Yeah, I listened to a great podcast yesterday, and it was just one of the points that was made in this interview was that poetry and the language of poetry, metaphor, symbol, even the sound, the rhythm of it, there's something about it that it it allows us to hold the duality of life. And when we're living on a planet where we have things like the James Hubble telescope out in space, sending back the most incredible photos of our universe, our cosmos, where we came from. Like, this is like where we came from. And at the same time, we've got war waging, and we're still blowing each other's arms and legs off, and each other's children and grandchildren's arms and legs. Like, what the hell? I mean, what the fuck? Really, honestly, I can't believe this is still going on in 2024. And so for me, poetry has been there from the very beginning of my life. It was my lifeline growing up in a house where things didn't make sense. I didn't feel safe. I couldn't understand what was going on. And all of it later in life, I've come back to and unpacked, and through lots and lots of therapy and different healing modalities, learned that, you know, there was my dad was a Vietnam vet. He experienced war. He brought it home firsthand. The addiction and the alcoholism and all of the things that set my parents up for what I experienced as a little child and didn't have words for. Yes, I've come to understand that later, but when I was a kid, the magic and the release and the freedom I felt in words was next level. It was my lifeline. It literally saved my life.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Poetry comes from so many different places for so many different people, you guys. Pain is a place, and poetry and words and journaling, and we don't even have to call it poetry, right? If that kind of freaks you out from trying this journaling thing, then just try it because it shifts energy. Try it because it's an awareness practice. Try it, for all of the other things it is. It doesn't have to be the poetry. I have a huge thank you to all four of you, not just for saying yes to this project, but for taking up the challenge I gave you to, first of all, not just share your beautiful poems, but write that story about it. I know that's hard sometimes, and I didn't give you too many words, right? Like, I know that you all have lived lifetimes worth, books worth of story. And I'm like, give me 500 words. And you're like, oh, and you all did it brilliantly. And you gave us that personal window like Christine just did. You're right. In terms of what was behind that, I think poetry for a lot of us is a lifeline. It's a survival tool, journaling, poetry. Okay, so Stacy, you first on this next question. What's the most important thing you want people to know about poems, poetry, that process? Give me that one most important thing you want to share with our listeners today.
I would say, even though we're here sharing with the world, you need to at least share it with yourself, because you're getting it out. It's at least for yourself, um and if you could take it one step further and share it beyond that, with friends or however you see fit, even better. But I still think you have to at least share it with yourself, because it helps your own awareness, and it helps you process, and it helps you get it out.
That's a fabulous start and answer to that question. Um, I love it. Even if you have to burn the pages, y'all. I mean, right? Even it's not about what's on that paper. You can burn the pages. It's about the movement, it's about the process. Silfath, tell me your version of this answer. What's the most important thing you want people to know about poetry? Oh, and you're muted, girl.
Oopsie.
Oopsie.
So I want to go back to what you said before, because that's something that I always say, is that we all have our own unique voice. And so in writing your poetry, for me, is a beautiful way to discover your own voice. If we go back to what I mentioned before, when we do the poetry and beauty exercise with the ladies, at the end of the exercise, each of the women has shared maybe 4, 5, 6 poems. And what we realize is that each one of the women has a unique voice in the way she writes, in the way she rhyme or doesn't rhyme, in the length of the poem. Some are very much inspired in nature, some are talking about angels and sky and God, and some are very short, and some are very, long. And it's exciting. It's exciting when they read this poem and they're like, oh, why? Another woman will say to another woman, oh my God, you had this feeling when you write, and she'll be like, oh yeah, you're right, and they get excited. So I would say it's a beautiful way to get closer and closer to your essence and your voice. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Definitely. What a gift, right? What a gift to get closer. Christine, what's the thing you want people to know about poetry?
Poetry is the key to unlock the prison door. It is the key that will open the door to freedom and to a safe place inside yourself. And poetry has never let me down.
I love that. You guys saw Dawn snapping. So if some of you don't know about the open mic poetry kind of scene, first of all, you need to go check it out. But second of all, to quietly praise a line, you might snap, right? So if you see us doing that while people are talking, that's what that is, right? I love that. Okay, Dawn, what's your answer to this? What's that thing you want people to know?
One word, and I think everyone just said it, but in different ways, which is also the beauty of poetry. It could be that one same thing. We're all looking at the same tree, but our process of it and what we say is different. And that one word is freedom. It's freeing. Writing poetry is freeing. First to you, as Stacy mentioned, and then to others as you share it. And that's the part that makes it compelling, almost obligatory to share it. Because if you're getting free, don't you want to give that gift to someone else? And the only way to do that is to be able to share it with others. And even if you think it's not good or whatever it is, whatever your qualms are about it, release it and let it go. It's going to help you be more free, and it's going to help to free others. So that's my one word. It's freeing.
I love it. It's a powerful word. All right. While these beautiful women get their poems up and ready, I will say to you that, this term that I've coined, brave story medicine, it goes for poetry too. This decision we make to put it on paper, that's level one. That's what Stacy was talking about. We do it for ourselves first and discover ourselves there on the page. That's an awareness process. Maybe as you're sharing, we share it. Maybe we let somebody else read it. Ooh, that's scary sometimes, right? But somebody we trust. And we go to this level two. We've shared. It's bigger than us now all of a sudden. Maybe we share, maybe we publish. Oh my gosh. And then the world can read that poem. And then the world can be changed. That is big potato stuff here, right? Maybe we step on the stage and we let a room full of people hear it. That's another level of this healing that we do as the writer, the sharer, the publisher, right? And so I've watched people move through levels of brave like this and discover themselves and step into who they were born to be. That's pretty big deal. So that's what we're up to with this book, you guys, in case you're wondering. That's what we're up to today in a podcast to share it with you. So, Silfath, you're going to be the first to share. And are you ready? I would if you all have a title for your poems today, go ahead and tell us the title of it too, right? To set us up. And it's all you. And I'm going to get you to unmute again. I know, it's okay.
So I'm going to read the end of Being Ghosted, A Return to Love. And then I'm going to move into This Love, which is the poem after. But I just really like that transition. So that's what I'm going to read. Okay. Finally, I was done with this cycle of pain, done falling in love with an illusion, done dimming my light to cuddle his ego. No more looking at him blinded by the veil of my desires. No more loving him through the lenses of my fears. As I was freeing myself from this old wound, I was remembering a deeper truth, a wisdom I had doubted for too long, the deep yearning in my soul and strong knowing in my heart. There it was. Love is the ultimate sacrament. Reverence is the foundation. Authentic related is my way. My heart has always called for a royal feast at the table of the beloved. I wanted to feel drunk in the alchemy of deep love, sacred connection, and courageous unfolding. This love I have known, doubted, searched for, I now remembered. This love is sacred ground for our wounds to heal and our gifts to expand, for us to co-create a better tomorrow. It honors my worth. It basks in the magnetic field of my turned on womb. He holds my shadow with unconditional love. I bow down to him with reverence and devotion, in awe of the masterpiece he is. His wounds and his fears, his brilliance and his gifts. We become medicine for each other, remembering that kind of love was the price of being ghosted, and that was a magical remembering.
Lots of snaps and claps and all the things. Oh my gosh, this love honors my worth. I don't know, that was the one for me, right? Like, so you might pick up a line when somebody shares like this, and you might write it down and let that be your journaling prompt. And you might just sit with it and meditate on what gave you the goosebumps. Could be a line or a word or the entire poem, right? Silfa, thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you, Laura.
Christine, you are up next. Are you ready?
I'm ready. The title of my poem is Starfish, and it's an older poem I wrote when my daughter was a newborn, and she just turned 21 on New Year's Day. So here's a throwback to her. Starfish. Your tiny hand reaches out to me, 5 diminutive digits, open like a starfish, open like the petals of a white flower. I accept your invitation and place my pinky in the soft flesh of your palm, slightly damp. You curl your fingers around it, hard, like you're trying to memorize it, like you're trying to make it your own. As you cling to this piece of me, still a green almond, I try to imagine the day you will release me. Yes, one day you will let me go. And like my own reflection in a window, your hand will pull back in a wave, the flutter of a handkerchief. I hope by then you'll understand what it means to remain open, alive, receptive to the world, that you'll have learned even when the world hurts you, turns its gray shoulder to you, to let yourself be exposed, offer the very marrow of your bones to the world, to take and make with it a new prize, a kite of kindness, a ring of hope. But for now, it is enough to hold you here in my arms, still so fresh from my womb, and marvel at the color of your eyes, stars shining brightly there.
That was so beautiful. You had me with the pinky, girl. You just like I couldn't stop feeling that once you said that line. Oh, that feeling. Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. You guys can see why we love poetry so much, right? So far. Dawn, are you ready?
I am ready. That was really good. This is called I'm Human. I'm human. I really am. I feel, I hurt, I cry. Well, sometimes when I can allow a moment or two to be weak, vulnerable, and sigh. I'm human even though I wear a cape. It's not my fault. It was given to me when the powers that be chose me to stand up and be the change I wanted to see for me and my family. I'm strong. I'm mighty in spirit. I'm strong in body, but sometimes emotionally, I feel weak and fragile. But I'm a strong Black woman, a divorced single mother, so I'm not allowed to be weak, not even for a moment. I'm not supposed to ever let them see me sweat. Who made these unseen rules anyway? And what is the price to pay to break the rules? Following them comes with the price too. And sometimes I don't want to pay it. I don't want to sacrifice. I want to give in. I want to let go. But how do you let go when there's no one to catch you? I'm tired. Tired of being strong, tired of being needed, tired of being alone, tired of being tired, tired of no one noticing or listening to my silent cries. Tired of my love and my sacrifice not being reciprocated. Tired of caring for others more than they care for themselves. Tired of being selfless while everyone else is so selfish. Just tired. So tired, my tear ducts are dry. If I wanted to, I couldn't even cry. A stone or a rock, I am not. I'm actually a very delicate, beautiful flower that needs to be nurtured and watered, but because I still bloom where I'm planted, despite the harshest of weathers or type of ground I'm in, I don't get the support I need. Because I grow regardless of the thorns and the weeds that attempt to choke me, I'm deprived of the bare essentials of sun and water and someone to speak well over me. So I'll just rest in what the creator of the universe said and every promise he made. I'll accept his super on my natural, so I'm no longer human, I'm supernatural. Home.
Oh, that line, his super on my natural. That's like, yeah, I loved that. But you got me also with the section on tired, and thank you for being brave enough to talk about that piece. Um, I really loved that poem.
Thank
Uh,
you.
all right, Stacy, are you ready?
Ready?
Okay.
This one is from my chapter 10, being overwhelmed and doing it anyways. The name of the poem is called The Life We Mask. And this was written also during the pandemic. Wearing a mask has such a shame. Are you sick? Do you always follow what's proclaimed? No, I say. I feel more protected and safe. You have to start somewhere. I understand people want to follow their own rules. Does that mean laws don't exist? That we display to discourage the fools? Do you mean what you say? Your actions show what's true. You seem to want one thing and yet don't follow your own rule. Take off the mask, the ones that are not physical. Take off the mask if it means seeing you. Take off the mask that hides your fear. Take off the mask that shows how you sneer. Take off the mask that has kept you disconnected. Take off the mask. Let me see you fully unprotected. It's more than the physical mask on your face. You're hiding years of unworthiness, depression, anxiety, and shame. You've buried yourself so far and deep that you've forgotten yourself. There's not even a little peek. You've mastered being a chameleon and getting through life so far. Where is the true person? Why is the mask so hard? Following others' examples got you through. Following others' examples made you seem cool. What the mask is hiding is the person who you want to be. I know you're there. I know you want to be free. What will you risk? What will you do? I'll be here, waiting to see you.
Thank you. The mask, that was some golden nuggets of awareness in that poem. All of you are doing that. And sometimes we need to hear these over and over again. Sometimes we need to get really quiet with some of the words and phrases and ideas that are landing hard, right? Um, I'm going to share one today too, you guys. It's called You Can. One warm golden pink beam pierces through spaces between the remaining leaves of ancient trees, sacred spaces where the light shining through reminds you there's more to this world than hate and fear. Let your gaze steady there. Take a portrait shot, letting everything else blur for a moment. Your heart beats sure and loud, proud to sit open and reaching, widening the circle of love. This practice is everything. The dream maker, the master manifester, the salve of all wounds, the way, the how, the reason you have a choice in the darkness. Sit here with me in the still, silent haven. Build your nest. Be diligent about resting. Surrender into each feeling with curiosity and a deep pelvic bowl breath. Relax. Inspiration is right here. Stay a little longer than you're comfortable. Wait for what you know to show itself. It arrives unexpectedly as the golden pink turns into an orange glow, popping sparks of purpose as you stoke. Stir and shake the old conditioned flakes of doubt, fear, and hate, yours or ours, and blend them into this pot of soul. Watch as the love melts all around it and something new takes shape. You are the master chef at this table today. You are the teacher, the guru, and the student, learning in every moment. Your creative beginner's mind finding time to be without any hints of wanting or wishing it different. Lean into the spaces within, traces of sorrow, anxious squeezes pressing on your heart. Release the bracing. Recognize who you are. Repeat 1,000,000,000 times over if you must, because this might just change everything. You can change the world. So that is You Can, you guys. Thank you for listening to that. All right, let's wrap this up with one more question for everybody. Christine, if you had to pick one simple step to practice on a day when everything feels impossible and overwhelm is kicking in, tell us what that would be. Share with our listeners some tools.
Hands down, meditation. Sitting meditation. It doesn't have to be in a formal posture, but sit outside under a tree. Don't even have to close your eyes. Just let your gaze go soft and just listen.
I love it. Christine used the M word, meditation. Don't be afraid, you guys. It is such a powerful tool. Dawn, what's yours? What's that one simple practice you want people to know about?
Aromatherapy.
Mm,
When I have a day that I'm overwhelmed or I need to get things done and I'm finding it hard to do that, um, it's taking some of my essential oils and just breathing them in. Just taking a moment to really just breathe and just be in that moment. And in my mind, I remind myself of the good things. You know, you look at the problem, it amplifies. So I remind myself of the good things, but it's just taking that time to just breathe in the aroma of something sweet, and it really uplifts me.
what's your favorite smell? Oil. They're not, they shouldn't be called
Lemongrass,
smells,
that
should
is
they?
my right
Lemongrass.
scent.
Yes.
Lemongrass is my happy smell in a bottle. It's my productivity oil. It gets me going. It really can shift my energy, my thought process, and it's like, oh, that was so overwhelming. Oh wow, and now I'm just going, and it's an amazing transformation. It's really wild.
It's a powerful tool, you guys. My favorite right now is frankincense, and I never
Mm.
thought that would be a favorite of mine, but it like instantly brings me in. And that's like what Dawn is talking about can be instant with like a breath with this. So let's combine Christine's and Dawn's, and we can meditate with our oil. And now we want to hear from Stacy. What's yours, Stacy?
Put on some music and have a dance party.
Yes.
Get moving.
We all like that one, I think. Yeah, definitely. And just, I've been hearing a lot about ecstatic dance, you guys, from lots of different people, and just there's tools and practices of dance, but music, even just turning on that speaker a little louder than usual. Thank you, Stacy. That's awesome. Okay, we can do everything, right? We can dance with some oil and meditate. All right. Why not? Let's do all three together. Okay. Sylphath, what are you gonna add?
I was going for music and movement,
All right.
but we're going to meditate with some essential oil, put some music and do some movement. What about doing a moving meditation with the music, the essential oil, and breathing?
And
Breath.
breathing, of course.
Breath, breath, breath. Breathing, and for me, the breath is a lot of time enjoying the breath moving through my body. It just really grounds me and get me really centered. So music and movement is definitely my thing, but I want to add something because it's already shared. So I would say breath would be the next for me. Definitely.
Thank you for that. I mean, breath, even one deep breath, is probably the fastest path to the now. And you can use any of these tools in combination. You guys know I'm just going to add the journal and pen, right? Okay. So, just pick up the notebook and pen after you do all these amazing things and go for it, because that would be my tool.
Yeah.
And really, the tool is awareness. And you can choose whatever we all mentioned today, whatever works to be the observer of what's going on inside of you, giving yourself full permission to feel whatever is there, honoring it with your intention and energy. But then with awareness, you have a choice, and you can move to love. You can move to gratitude. You can shift to joy, and you can hold pain and joy together. You can do that, because what I know for sure is trying to stuff or shove or skip over the hard stuff doesn't work, right? So, oh my goodness. Stacy, Sylphath, Dawn, Christine, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
So, you guys, if a word or a poem, anything you heard today is making you curious, you have a question, you want to continue the conversation, these are communities of generous people. This isn't just a poetry book. Drop down into the chat, into the description. I've got the notes there, and I've hooked up all of our poet authors with their websites, their links, their places of connection. These women today are doing amazing things in the world, and they are very generously there for you to ask that question and to get your support. And I think it's really important that we help each other like that, right? That we can be accessible and answer a question. So please explore their sites and take that next step with them. And of course, you can join us for our launch party, our book launch party for 100 poems and possibilities for healing. We're going to have that on January 12th. And you can find the information down below. We're going to have an invite on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page for our Zoom party. Get to meet all of our authors from all over the world. It's pretty incredible. If you happen to be listening to this interview after that date, well, that just means the book is ready on Amazon. So you need to go buy your copy today.
Yeah.
And lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.
Thank you.